as we mentioned in the introduction, you have a new book. I have no idea how Doug Reynolds, of all people, found time to write a book. You have so much going on all the time between the conferences and all the work you do with the Society for Metabolic Health Practitioners. Like, how were you able to also write a book in that time? That's amazing.
Uh, I actually don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. I think that's the real truth of it. I've been thinking about writing a book for a long time. And I've always thought about all these things that happened to me in my life, like literally sitting there, how I was a software engineer sitting doing this and teaching doctors and medical practitioners about carbohydrate reduction, like how did that even happen? And I always felt like everything that I've been through, especially all the failures and stuff, kind of positioned me to be in the right space at the right time when this opportunity kind of presented itself to actually pull the trigger and make a decision to move forward with it. Um, I talk about the whole story about being on the phone with Gary Taubes and getting him to eventually agree to come speak at our first event, and that really being his agreement to do that was the trigger to say, okay, like now I better start building a website and a social media presence and all the stuff we didn't have to try and put on an event. It was, and again, how did at that point when it was 6 months to go to when we planned to put the event on. Why didn't I plan it for a year and a half from then and not 6 months? I don't know. But the Game Changer Publishing CEO actually contacted me through Twitter, through X, a little while back, and said, like, looking at all the stuff you do, don't you think you want to write a book? And it was like, yeah, I do, but I think I even found from 2018, I've actually got a Word document. I forget what I even had as a preliminary title at that stage, and I had like one sentence typed in there, and and that was the end of my attempt to write a book. But I'd been thinking about it. So when she suggested it, I said, "Oh, what does it involve?" And I think their whole process is not about it is about helping you to produce the book and not about gouging you on the revenues. So they charge you an upfront fee to produce the book, and that's it. So they don't garnish the revenues at all. And they've got this process, and they said they can produce a book in 90 days.
Wow.
And I mean, if it's like something like Gary Taubes or something with all this research and all of that stuff that he's documenting, then that is never going to happen. He would have to have had a at least a rough manuscript going before they could maybe work from there and get it out in 90 days.
Wow.
But mine was more like a memoir, it's just like my life and how everything that I went through and how that led up to me making the decision to start this, and how it qualified me to provided me with all the tools to be able to actually make this successful. So yeah, that was, and she came to me before Brainerd, like just after San Diego, and we had agreed to put on another one-day event in Brainerd Lakes, which again, like, what was I thinking? Because for one day, it's pretty much as much effort to put it on as for a 4-day event.
Right.
The only difference is now you've got fewer speakers that you like herding that bunch of cats, But outside of that, everything else is just the same work. The contracting and all the websites and all that other stuff. And so I was busy trying to do that. And she was saying, like, you really need to, you've got this event coming up in January, like, we really need to be launching the book there. And I just said, please just leave me alone. I've got to finish this Brainerd thing. But like the day I got back from Brainerd, I contacted them and said, okay, now I'm ready. And so they looked up, and it worked out from that day. It was 90 days was the 22nd of January, which is when we're launching.
Wow.
And but Pam was really unhappy. She thought these guys were shysters, and that they were going to lose all this money that we were putting in to try and produce this book, and that like we've got all this planning to do for Boca. Like, what are you doing? And I just felt like I wanted to use this as a way to get out beyond our sphere of influence, outside of our bubble, Been trying to come up with an idea for 10 years about how to do that. And it occurred to me that if I can make this a successful launch, then people will get exposed to this as suggestions and stuff to them through Amazon that would never have even, or that don't know that we exist. And so that would be brilliant, because that's kind of what I'm hoping for. And it was just, I just really wanted to do it. But I said to her, look, I promise you I won't kill myself. If it doesn't look like we're going to make it, then we'll just accept that we're going to launch after Boca and just do it that way. But she laughs about it now. She says, like, I knew you weren't going to do that you would kill yourself. And when it got to the point when I found out, I thought that we would be able to like submit it to Amazon like the day before, on the 21st, And turns out, if you're not like literally 30 days before, the process needs to start going. The manuscript needs to be finished and formatted and everything. And so that meant the 22nd of December was the deadline. And that was 11 days. So this was about the 11th of December that I find this out. And like, we had just done all the recordings and all the stuff and the transcripts that came from that, and eventually produced a manuscript, and the manuscript was terrible. Because it was really rough draft. It was me doing these recordings and going blank and not being able to retrieve words because of this TBI thing and everything. And so the initial manuscript was terrible. And I started trying to fix it. And I literally worked 15 hours a day for that 11 days to
Wow.
get it done. And planning for Boca suffered immensely. And I would start working at 5 a.m. until like 5 p.m, and then have dinner and chat a bit with Pam and watch something on TV, maybe until 7, and then I would work until 10, and then I would go to bed, like every day.
Wow.
And like Pam was saying, like, see, I told you you're gonna kill yourself. But not on top of that, came to like the last 3 days, and I ended up roping her into help. So for 3 full days, the last 3 days, we were going through it one final time with a lot of suggestions from her about things that she didn't understand what I was saying. And, being a South African and describing that life, what I was saying made sense to me, but she said, as an American, that like doesn't mean anything. So she helped a lot with that to sort that out. And we were sitting like literally next door offices on the same document, and I was working in a different place, and every time she found something she wanted to change, she would yell, and I would go and find the place where she was, and we would like rewrite that bit together, and then I would go back to what I was doing. So yeah, for 3 days, and on top of that, the Game Changer publishing editors that were helping with the editing wanted to be finished by the Friday before the Monday when it was due, so they didn't have to work on the weekend. And I wrote to them and said, dudes, sorry, I know it's a weekend before Christmas, but we're working. And so they actually got stuck in and helped. Sarah Rice helped me in those last few days. And Sunday night, I basically just like stood to firm, like, am I gonna? I really am gonna pull the trigger and send it. But
Wow.
yeah, it was the next day. I then had to start trying to put Boca back on the rails again.
Wow.
Pam had been doing a lot while I was busy, which helped. But in the end, Boca's on the rails, and it's going to happen, and we survived. But yeah, I don't know why I made these. This is not the first time, and I don't know. I don't know why I made that decision,
Wow.
but it was so important for me that I finally found a way to get out beyond our sphere of influence that I feel like I think that was the driving force behind
Wow.
trying to insist that I got it out.